Dear listeners, good morning and welcome to Comme d'Archi, the podcast that opens the doors to the fascinating world of architecture. For newcomers, let me introduce myself. I'm the spokesperson of Anne-Charlotte Depondt, PhD in History of Architecture, published author, head of a communication and development agency based in Paris, France, dedicated to architecture. Let's meet every week to discuss culture and architecture and learn how to look at projects through a context and diversity lens. Thank you for being with me today, and now it's time for talent.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Dear listeners, welcome back to our Comme d'Archi summer series dedicated to color. In this episode, we will be talking about the color pink. This is Esther, and I will be reading a synthesis written by Anne-Charlotte. Pink associated with girls? Is pink futile? In any case, the color is a symbol of seduction, romance, and femininity. It is associated with tenderness and happiness, hence the expression seeing life in pink, voir la vie en rose. However, pink can quickly turn out to be garish and vulgar. The columnist Julia Foyce tells us, and I quote, "Originally, pink is the color of men, because it is a variation of red, which has long been the color of power and strength." In paintings from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, kings often pose in pink tunics. Women, on the other hand, are dressed in blue, the color of the Virgin Mary. Except that, among other things, of course, nothing can ever be explained by a single factor. In the 18th century, La Pompadour became infatuated with pink. She began to wear it and to adorn herself with it. This is not very surprising when one knows the spirit, the culture, the thirst for freedom of the marquise who gave her name to the rose. Except that the king's favorite was admired as much as she was hated. As it became her color, pink began to embody futility, versatility, scheming, and falseness. This was the case when, at the beginning of the 20th century, layettes began to be sexed. Later girls got the pink. And Julia concludes that she prefers purple. For my part, I doubt that we had to wait for the Pompadour and the Boudoir hour to recognize in the marvelous pink flower the traits of grace and femininity. Here is optimism, the resolutely positive, the grace and the dream of the pink tutu of the Petit Rat of the opera. Thank you, Charles Garnier, for your magical opera, Fille des Barbouilleurs, to hell with the spoil sports. Obviously refined, we will prefer rose pink rather than a clumsily saturated fuchsia. Light then, but architecturally rather well anchored. Because, and here we go, even if it sometimes glows red, the city of Toulouse in France is called the Pink City. It comes from the color of the bricks and tiles, local and historically rooted building materials. It was in this city, in ancient times, that the Roman brick was invented. With the settlement of the Romans, many brick factories were built and gave the city this color. The Roman brick is specific because of its dimension, 42 by 28 by 5 centimeters. It is called the brique foraine. Its subtle pinkish tones are those found in Italy. Let's digress. Not the pink color, but the rose in architecture is also a circular window opening. It is present in the Romanesque and Gothic styles, most often with a circular stained glass window. The name is derived from the rose flower and its color, rose pink. The medieval rose can be distinguished from the rose window above the portal at one end of the nave or an end of the transept. Pink is found in ceramics, brickwork, and pastel of Art Nouveau, accompanying the fluidity of forms. Then it is found in more contemporary architecture, with Le Corbusier publishing his colored range in 1931, with Ricard de Beaufil, Louis Barragan, or Aldo Rossi. Known in France for the Espace d'Abraxas in Noisy-le-Grand, the Place de Catalogne in Paris, and housing in Cergy-Pontoise, the Spanish architect Ricard de Beaufil has made a name for himself in his own country with remarkable projects. This includes La Muralla La Rocha, built in 1973 in Calp, a coastal town in the province of Alicante. This complex brings together some 50 flats linked by pink, tangled staircases reminiscent of Moroccan Casbah. For the great Mexican architect Luis Barragan, color is a complement to architecture. Pink runs through his work. Used as a monochrome solid, it adds a singular dimension to the walls of the Cuatro San Cristobal Ranch in Los Clubes, Mexico, built in the 1960s. He creates an expressive geometric abstraction. The pictorial dimension of this place, open to nature, is accentuated by the presence of a water mirror, kinetically reinforcing the colored impression. In 1971, the Italian architect Aldo Rossi completed the pink cube of the San Cataldo Cemetery in Modena. 4 levels of graphic effects mixing the elementary constructive register and historical references in a play of strong materiality, of emptiness, of fullness from the square to the grid. More humble and more recent, we remember the Pink House in Colombes near Paris, an ordinary heritage building from the 1930s that was rehabilitated by artificial architecture, nominated for the Équerre d'Argent Prize in the First Work category in 2010. Thank you, dear listeners. Let's think of Edith Piaf and see life with pink shades. Je vois la vie en rose. This was Esther for Anne-Charlotte. Let's meet again soon in the final summer episode of Comme d'Archi.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to tune in to our previous content on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you like it, make sure to promote the podcast by giving it 5 stars on Apple Podcast and adding a comment, or on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe and listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.